So something that I learned from your stuff is the Ochratoxin A. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So Ochratoxin A, it's actually a fungus. It's a white mold, and that white mold is basically present in every rice, organic, non-organic. It's in rice, it's in breads, it's in crackers, it's in pastas, it's on potatoes, and it's actually an environmental, basically trigger or pollutant that actually gets really absorbed in the food from the harvesting process, right? So you take wheat, for example. Gluten's a huge thing in the ASD world. And you take a wheat, basically a grain, right, in the field, and then the farmer basically puts it into a bin. And inside that bin, they're waiting on market prices to fluctuate. And then the 18 wheeler comes by, they take all the wheat out of the bin, or rice or corn or whatever it is, any grain, gluten free, non gluten free, and they throw it into basically an 18 wheeler. It goes basically to a factory and they heat it up, they clean it up, they pasteurize it, and they produce whatever it is. Well, there's no one in there basically sanitizing the bin or taking a UV light wand and wanding down the bin, right? So what happens is these foods start collecting basically fungus inside of it because of the humidity, right? And mold likes, or even fungus likes, high humidity. So you take a loaf of bread, you basically leave it in the bag, you put it in your pantry. 2, 3 months later, you open it up and you're like, oh my gosh, there's a bunch of mold in this thing, right? How did it get in there? It's never been open, right? Because it's contaminated in the food. So what's happening with this thing is that this ochratoxin A is also heavily even found in water damaged homes. It's found in HVAC systems. It's found in carpet when you go to a hotel room, or rugs in a house. It's found in the food source. So what's happening is you breathe it in through your nose, and you also ingest it when you're eating all these excessive carbohydrate foods, right? And what ochratoxin A does, which is an aspergillus mold, it selectively finds three areas in the brain that it likes to target. And what happens with infections inside of the body is they're very similar to, like, when a deer walks through the woods. A deer basically runs the same exact lane. We call it a track, right? Unless it's like spooked, and then it'll kind of divert around. But when it feels safe, it's going to keep running the same lane. They hit three areas. One, it's an area, we call it the basal ganglia. It's the go and the stop button in the brain. How we fixate, how we inhibit, right? Stimming, right? Our deer in the headlights. It's called a dopamine 1, initiate go, dopamine 2, how you stop, right? Then they'd actually hit something called the striatum, which is called the midbrain, which is where your pupils are. This is what makes your eyes fixate, focus. How many ASD kids can't literally look you in the eyes,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they got really big pupils. When they walk, they actually don't symmetrically swing their arms. It's called the rubrospinal tract. It's a pathway that comes down. And it also hits something called the hippocampus, which is your cognition, your memory, right? Some of these kids literally have some of the most incredible memories. They can memorize literally numbers and letters, and literally recite movies or speak 50 different languages, right? But they can't comprehend certain things, right? So comprehension, when inflammation gets in, it can basically turn the knob up, make it hyperactive, or it can turn it down and it can basically weaken it. So it's very interesting.
Is this the core? Is this the very upstream of the excitation inhibition imbalance, you think?
Yeah. So what happens with the excitation, right? So excitation is basically due to something called glutamate. Glutamate is a neurotransmitter that excites the brain. And when you look up the way the brain works, there's this thing that's called the basal ganglia, right? It's the go, the stop button. And glutamate from something called the thalamus, which is the relay station kind of in the brain. Any thought, any movement, any agitation, even the immune system, how it has to decipher this infection, everything goes through this little thing called the thalamus, and then it fires glutamate and it goes to the brain, and the brain sends it basically to this thing called the basal ganglia, and the brain has to say, safe, not safe, go, don't go. There's also something called the limbic system, which is the amygdala. What happens is the inflammation gets in and it basically blocks these little receptors. And that basically can make a kid literally like get overwhelmed and start flapping his hands. Or sometimes you have a parent who goes to the doctor's office and the kid's like he's like pride. He can't get out of the chair. He's like like a deer in the headlights. And all that response is basically it's a stress response. We look at it as a behavior response, but it's just basically how the brains basically calibrate and go and don't go.